Azamina is here, and with a new archetype comes a new deck. Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're taking a look at Azamina and the best way with which to play it, that being White Forest. Or more specifically, the way to most highlight how powerful the Azamina cards are, and that is with, of course, the other Azamina cards and the White Forest cards, because they have the most synergy. So let's go through this deck and explain the cards, and more specifically, the new cards. Where I'm just going to start off here with the new cards, starting with LZ Azamina of the White Forest. I've talked a bunch about White Forest, but if you don't know, the White Forests all have the ability to, synergize with sending spells and traps to the graveyard, and then their spells and traps reset themselves in order to trigger their effects. So, for example, LZ pitches a spell trap, the spell trap resets itself, and LZ gets an effect. Right. This effect is sending a spell trap, special summoning itself, and searching a card. Make sense? Makes sense. Azamina, on the other hand, doesn't do this. LZ Azamina of the White Forest is just a facilitator, basically. It's more or less just there to be two names, and to do stuff for both of the archetypes. So, what it does is it special summons itself, pretty much. If it's in your hand, you just reveal it, special summon itself, or any other White Forest or Azamina monster. On top of that, during your main phase, you can fusion summon an Azamina using monsters from hand or field. Pretty simple. And, this is the important part, if this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, add a Sinful Spoil card from your deck to your hand. So, this allows us to play the Sinful Spoil cards, most notably things like Diabel and Wanted, which we'll get into in a second. That's what LZ does. It's incredibly useful, so why are we only running two? Because the main combo and the basic combos go through this card incredibly easily. It's very easy to search, thanks to things like Tails, as well as LZ, etc., etc. It's very useful to see, it's very simple to see, it's very consistent. So, realistically, you could get away with one of this card. I'm playing two, it's very nice, it's not bad to draw in your hand, so, for the most part, pretty solid. Also, it's just like an additional guy that you can just special summon to go into the Fiendsmith line, so it's not bad, right? Moving on, we have ourselves the new Azamina cards, most notably the Spells and Traps, which happen to be Hallowed Azamina, which says reveal an Azamina fusion monster, send a Sinful Spoil, and then fusion summon that monster, basically using the spell as the fusion material. Right, and then it can add itself back by shuffling back an Azamina card in your grave, or that you control, then adding itself back to hand. Now, notably, the add back to hand effect is a once per turn, but the fusion summon is not. Meaning, if you have two Sinful Spoil cards to send, they specifically have to be Sinful Spoil cards to send. If you have two Sinful Spoil cards to send, you can fusion summon twice. So what does that mean? I'll explain it in a second. Next up, we have Deception, which tributes a card in order to add an Azamina from your deck to your hand, which this is the way that you get into this, because basically you go, activate this, tribute a monster, add the Azamina card, activate the Azamina, or activate the Hallowed Azamina, tributing the Deception, or like sending the Deception, and then fusion summoning, right? So that's generally how you do that. You could also send something like Seeker or Sinful Spoil, Wanted, or Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. Both of those work as well, which is pretty nice. However, what are we going into? We're going into Azamina Silva, which is a Omni Negate. However, it only negates the effect. It doesn't negate activation, and it doesn't negate the it doesn't negate and destroy. So do keep that in mind. For example, if your opponent activates a continuous card, it's going to be able to negate the effect of the continuous card, but the card's still going to stick around. So, for example, if your opponent activates like a skill drain, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. So, there you go. We also have a Moo, which also has the ability to, when fusion summon, add an Azamina or Sinful Spoil card from your deck to your hand. Now, notably, alongside LZ, you could search this, or you could search out any of your Sinful Spoils, which is very nice. All in all, solid card. And that's pretty much it. That's really all that those two do. However, being able to put those bodies onto the field and generate that advantage is very, very nice. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We're also playing some other cards that we weren't originally playing in something like White Forest, which is the Sinful Spoils of the White Forest, which allows you to fusion summon it from the extra deck using monsters from hand or field, and if sent to the graveyard, it is able to reset itself. So basically, this just allows you to go into Guardian Chimera on the opponent's turn. Very cool. And then on top of that, we have Aphis, don't know how to say this, which is just basically a better compulse, due to the number, or however many monsters on the field or in the, synchro or fusion monsters that are on the field or in the grave that are fiend, illusion, or spellcaster, you bounce those monsters, or cards, I believe. Basically just a better compulse for the archetype, and it resets itself as well because it's a White Forest card as well. And that's pretty much it. The rest of the deck is just White Forest, pretty standard. The only thing of note is we're only running one Stellar, and that is because it's just not nearly as useful, and for the most part you don't actually want to start your combo by normal summoning that. So yeah, that's more or less why we're only running the one, and then the rest of it is just like Fiendsmith, hand traps, stuff like that. Pretty standard list, not really anything too interesting. The only thing that I will say that is abnormal compared to the rest of the like White Forest decks, or the previous White Forest decks, is the fact that we're playing 3 Tales of the White Forest. Originally we only played 1, and it's because it kind of was a brick. You mostly wanted to draw it, or not draw it, but search it off of Sylvie. But now it's much better due to the fact that you can use this to get into the LZ Azamina, which is very, very useful. And on top of that, it allows you to go and just like generate more advantage. It's a lot more consistent to actually use it as well, just due to the nature of these cards and being able to tie them into like the Sinful Spoil cards and etc, etc. So it's just a lot more useful in general, and that's basically it. But yeah, we're playing 42. Let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performs. Alright, here we are going first, and let's see what we can accomplish. This hand is not great. It doesn't have a spell trap in it to use with the LZ, but there's a way we can remedy that. So we're going to start off here with the Engraver in order to grab up Tract, and then we're going to activate the Tract effect here. Why are we not pitching it to the LZ? Well, because the Engraver stuff is much better. So we're going to go for the Lurie here. Lurie is going to then be linked off into the Requiem, and we're going to go for the Requiem effect in order to special summon out the second Engraver. Here we can go and equip the Requiem, and hey! That happens to be a spell trap, which means we can now summon the LZ and use its effect. We're going to grab up the Sylvie and then go from there into Sequence. This also allows us to put a Sequence into the field, or onto the field, without using our Engraver, which is very useful. So we're going to shuffle back an Engraver and a Requiem in order to go into Lacrima. Lacrima is going to bring back the Engraver, and then we're going to send that to the graveyard for the Diabellstar. Now, the reason I do this is because we haven't yet used the Engraver effect, so we can use the Engraver effect while still being able to keep the Sequence on field for a later Apo, and being able to go into a DD Wave King Caesar, because this card's incredible, and I really want to do that. So we're going to do that right here, and we're going to special summon back the Engraver, and use it for the Wave King Caesar. At this point, now we can go for the Deception, tributing off our Diabellstar in order to grab up Hallowed. Here we can search out with the Sylvie the Tails. Tails can grab up the LZ. LZ will then special summon itself, and we can use them. Just kidding, I lied to you. We still need a spell in order to do something. So we're going to go for the Moo here in order to grab up the Sinful Spoils of the White Forest, which we can now send, which is very useful. We're going to go for the Aphis here as well, off of the Resilia, just because it happens to be the best one. And then we are going to also grab up Wanted off of our LZ. Also, our card is going to reset itself, and then we're going to go for the Hallowed in order to shuffle back the LZ and grab back Hallowed. We're going to activate the Hallowed and chain Wanted, which is a quick play spell, in order to activate its effect. Now, because of the way that Hallowed Azamina works, you cannot just send from hand or face-up field. You just send from hand or field in general, right? Which also means that since you're not targeting, you're sending as effect. You can do this, and now I get to, basically I get to send Wanted. Why does this work this way? Because Konami's stupid. But yeah, now we can go and grab up the Silva, and we're gonna draw a card off of the Wanted here. By putting back the Deception. Here we're going to make the Apo, and we have the Silva as well. We're going to go and then synchro into our Baron here. Why did we decide to do this as opposed to something else? Well, because it doesn't really matter. Being able to put this into the graveyard is just fine, and like it doesn't really change a whole lot in terms of like Aphis numbers and such. But importantly, Baron is just a better negate, so we make the better negate. That's pretty much it. Yeah, and that's all we have. Now, this may not seem all that great. Ignore the fact that it's branded. This may not seem all that great, but actually, it probably does look exceptional. But it's branded, so who knows? It could be anything. We're going to go for the DD Wave King Caesar, and I'm almost certain that my opponent has something like Grass or something else along those lines. So I'm going to kind of hold my negates. Realistically, I should have just negated the branded Lost. It's kind of a problem, but I didn't. because I'm dumb. Anyway, my opponent normal summons a Quem here, and I'm like, that's fine. And then they are going to activate, of course, the Triple Tactics Thrust. I'm going to attempt to Ash that. They are going to then reveal that, of course, they have the Called By. I don't negate here. I should have. But I don't. So they grab up the Branded Fusion. Now, again, I'm terrified, realistically, that they have a Grass in hand at this point, right? Because, yeah, it's a branded player. Of course they do. Why would they not have that? However, at this point, them grabbing up the Branded Fusion, yeah, I can't really do anything about that. Lost is a fun, fair, and balanced Yu-Gi-Oh card, and Ash is the only thing that would have done anything to this Branded Fusion. This negates activations, and I can't use my Apo. So realistically, I'm cooked here. Technically speaking, I could have bounced with the Azamina here, which, hindsight 2020, should have done that. But I didn't. So, oops, my bad. Anyway, they're going to Fusion Summon here and go for the Albion. I'm not going to lie, I thought this only bounced monsters. I thought it was just Compulse. So, my bad. Anyway, I can't do anything here because they Fusion Summon a thing. So if you're wondering why they're getting away with this, it's because I literally can't do anything. I still, for some reason, can't do anything there. At the earliest convenience, I do activate my Fusion spell. Should I have maybe waited for the Apo effect or something else along those lines? Maybe. That's all. Just, yeah, maybe. I also activate the Caesar here. It doesn't do anything. But that's fine. Notably, we did also activate the Diabell Star here because it was sent to the graveyard during our opponent's turn, so it gets to special summon itself by sending a card to the graveyard. So, turns out the Wave King Caesar was just not... It's just going to be sent to the graveyard. I was originally going to send this guy, but it's fine. Anyway, we're going to draw two and pop a card. So we pop the Granganol here, and we're going to also search and put a card back with the Lacrima that was underneath this guy, and just burn for a bit. So we do set the Deception. My opponent has the Fusion Deployment, because of course they do. But at this point, I'm not really too worried, because they're going to go for the Albaz here, which is a choice. I guess. Not something I would have done, but that's fine. But now we get to go for the Azamina Aphis here, which allows me to bounce their entire field, so they just don't get anything. They're going to activate the Lost again, and then they're going to set a Branded in red, activate their Ecclesia, and pass the turn. Almost immediately, my opponent realizes their mistake and concedes the game because they don't have a target for the Branded in red. Look, neither of us played that very well, but at the very least, you got an idea as to what Azamina Fiendsmith White Forest can do. White Forest. We'll just call it White Forest. Alright, and here we are once again going first with... Yo, that's a Blastro hand, if I've ever seen one. We're immediately going to start off here with the Droll effect of... or the Droll dodge effect of the Sinful Spoils, or the Wanted. The reason I do this is because Droll basically kills me here, whereas if I specifically go for the Wanted in that way, whereas if I don't go, like if I play around Droll with the Wanted, it's much better. And since like I have Ash guaranteed pretty much, I'm not too concerned about like one of the draw spells. Anyway, we're going to set the Deception here, and then I'm going to normal summon Ash Blossom and make Baron. Yep, but yeah, you can just do this. Isn't that cool? We're going to go for the Deception here, and we're going to tribute the Rusia in order to grab up the Hallowed. We're going to activate the Hallowed here, and we're going to special summon the Moo. Out comes Moo. Activate the Moo effect. We are going to grab up the LZ, and then we are going to shuffle back in order to draw a card, and that is such a bad draw. Wow. Well. Crap. Well, turns out I can't do anything. Away goes my field. Not exactly what I was hoping for, but it's Ash in a dream, I guess. Yep, that's pretty much it. Make Verte. Whoa. No. Oh. Did they draw the fusion spell? Maybe? Let's, well, I drew not very well. At the very least, we can go and then get negated. Yeah, they pop Yubel. Summon Terror Incarnate. Sure, yeah, I can't really do anything about that. I just hold the Ash here. Let's see what my opponent can do. They're gonna... Huh. Yeah? That... Okay, well, I guess normal summon Sylvie, and, yeah, that gets negated, and then out comes Spirit of... You, and then... No, that's the second U-bet. And, wait a second. Didn't they earlier also... What is happening? I'm going to show you the deck list after this. This is why it's in this replay, because holy crap, this deck list was wild. Yes, you did see that correctly. That was a Hoppier Squadron being normal summoned to go into Transcendosaurus Glaciosaurus. I don't know. Do you know? Do I know? Do we know? Collectively? Nah. Trust me, it's so much weirder. I don't know if you've noticed, this is a 50-card deck. I draw Max E, which is funny. I'm just gonna go to battle and deal some damage. My opponent's kind of low on life points, but if they see Nightmare Pain, I just die. Mature Chronicle. Ah, but of course, I drew Tract. Tract actually does something. We're going to grab up Engraver. We're going to pitch the Hallowed, and now we can go Hallowed and add it back, but it doesn't really matter. We're just going to tribute someone that... Never mind, we're going to do nothing. That's the game. Good game? I have no explanation here. Truly... Yeah, that's it. Alright, so here we are going a second, and we did draw Fua. Maybe we just win. Well, it resolved, so let's see how this goes. Never mind, it's Drytron. Well, they're gonna go for the Alpha. I think this is just the Ash. The reason I Ash here is because Alpha specifically gets them into Ben 10, which is, 1, the most amount of advantage, and 2, and more importantly, Ben 10 gets them access potentially to Vanity's Emptiness, which I cannot and will not allow. Not Vanity's Emptiness, Vanity's Fiend or Vanity's Ruler, which both are, again, not allowed. So, for the most part, I feel like that is just the correct Ash, is the Alpha. So, there you go. Anyway, of course they can still do stuff here, right? They draw a card. They're going to go for the Fafnir. Fafnir is going to grab Nova. Nova is going to activate its effect in order to special summon out the new. We do end up drawing because that's the special summon from deck, because Fua is fair and balanced. Smile. They're going to go and grab the Meteonis and then go into the Mu Beta Fafnir. I only do get the 2 draws, so my hand does get replenished. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I also did draw Niv, which is kind of cool. Anyway, they're going to go for the Draconids here, and they're going to then... add back their Meteonis Drytron and pass the turn. I attempt to go to the Nib here, just to kind of get the material out of the grave. I don't really need the Nib in my hand. Maybe it could have been more useful in hand. Never mind, it didn't matter. Anyway, we're going to go for the Engraver here, which they allow? Sure. I guess the reasoning behind it is like, oh, like Mu Beta Fafnir will negate the Tract, but like, I feel like you still don't allow the Engraver to resolve, right? Surely. Anyway, beside the point. We do activate the Deception next, mostly because I just would rather have the Tract resolve. But yeah, they do end up negating the Deception. Now, notably, keep in mind, I didn't actually activate any of the effects of Deception, which are the ones that are once per turn. You can activate it however many times you want. So, yeah, they negated the activation of the card. You can negate the activation and destroy the card. So, Deception line, maybe later. Anyway, we're going to go for the Tract here. We're going to grab up the Lurie, pitch the Lurie, activate the effect of the Lurie, special summon itself, and then go into the Requiem. I'm very surprised we even got to Requiem, and you'll see why in a second. We're going to go for the Engraver, and then try and use the Engraver effect here with the Requiem in order to send the guy to the graveyard. Which, hey, they have a Cerberus, so they're going to protect and negate the activation. Just kidding, I have a Called By. Might as well Called By it. Well, now they have to activate their Imperm, and at this point, the game is extremely bad for them. And you'll see why in a second. It's kind of weird, but stick with me. I'm not going to use the Diabell Star here. You may think I am. No, I'm going to go for the second Engraver, which, again, for some reason, they allow me to do. Interesting. But beside the point, they do also modulate its level. Understandable. I was never going to use it to go into the an Xyz monster, I guess, so not really that big of a deal. However, Tract has a second effect, which says Fusion Summon. That's it. That's basically all it says. So we're going to do that. We're going to go into Lacrima. I'm going to be like, okay, Lacrima effect. Special summon this guy. Cool. We have 2 negates, right? Like, we have the materials necessary for 2 potential negates. And we have elected to not use any of them until I have gotten into this position. And again, mind you, I have Diabellstar still in hand. And something he doesn't know, Tails as well, which can also be used with the Diabellstar on field. So I still have access to pretty much my entire combo, and yet they've elected to just not do anything. So kind of interesting, but notably, I get to chain block the SP Little Knight here, and yeah. Guess what? Deception was not used. I tribute the SP. Should not have done that. Should just tribute the Diabellstar there, but yeah, we still get to go Deception, and to do the whole Deception line as well. Nice try, I guess. All right, we're back with the deck, and honestly, the Azamina cards do add quite a bit of oomph to the White Forest deck. Notably, it allows the deck to actually play more and just like do more and not really have to rely on like Toy Box. That being said, Toy Box isn't bad. I'm just like, now you don't have to rely on that. And so yeah, all in all, I really do enjoy the Azamina cards. Now, there's a ton of other Azamina cards in particular that we could have been playing, but for the most part, what I saw is that most people weren't playing them because they're really not all that great. They're okay, right? But other than like these 2 fusion monsters, the rest of the fusions are okay at best. This one's not bad, but it does require you to send 2 spells for something like Hallowed, which is much more difficult to have, right? Or to resolve, right? Or you could actually hard fusion summon it, which is, again, not exactly easy. And all it does is special summon back an illusion and potentially pop 2 cards if you also have another Azamina or Sinful Spoil card activate. So, like, it's very niche in how useful it can be. If it's useful, it can be very useful. But it's kind of not going to always be that useful, and it's going to come up very rarely. Right? Same thing with Saint Azamina. Sure, the protection effect is incredible, right? However, other than that, that's kind of all it does. Like, it's a special summon, right? You could bring out another guy. So that's not bad. But then again, it is very difficult to summon. It requires the 2 Sinful Spoil monsters, or Sinful Spoil spells, or a weird set of fusion materials, so it's, again, kind of difficult to summon, so the payoff's not really worth it, at least in a deck like this. Sure, you could have a more centered Azamina strategy in which this would be very useful. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be, I'm just saying in White Forest and in a deck that wants to do the most with the Azamina cards to their fullest potential, the Azamina cards just kind of aren't very good for that synergy. So that's pretty much it. There's a bunch of other stuff that this deck technically can do, but for the most part, it's a pretty simple engine, basically, because it's supposed to be played with the White Forest cards. Makes sense. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys did indeed enjoy it. If you did, I like us very much. Appreciate it. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.